National Oceanic and Atmospheric Administration only includes in this report natural disasters that have surpassed $1 billion rather in damage. So think things like the Maui wildfire or Hurricane Idalia. Those quickly rack up the bill when it comes to aid and support. So here in Arizona, our weather can often be deadly, but it's not often costly. When a natural disaster approaches, the state can request the Federal Emergency Management Agency, or FEMA, to help with prevention and rebuilding. Now, this can include things like funding, sandbags, medical supplies, food, and shelter. But in Arizona, heat is not usually recognized as an immediate threat where people would need to immediately evacuate their homes or rebuild their homes. So what can our state do? State climatologist Erin N. Saffel explains.
When we're looking at those natural disasters, again, it's looking at impacts to the infrastructure. And so that also is a signature of an increase in population and folks that are in places that are being impacted. So from my perspective, keeping people away from those areas where there might be hazards becomes a priority.
Keeping people out of the heat, she says, is the #1 priority. And in Maricopa County this year, we have seen 194 confirmed heat-related deaths, with over 300 more still under investigation. So the question remains, could our state request FEMA aid? Technically, yes, we could, but we would have to prove significant financial damage to infrastructure in the same way that a flooding, hurricane, or a wildfire would cause.